Our thanks to IPF for this opportunity to join this year's AGM and to engage with NHRIs from across the wider Asia-Pacific region. We would like to use this opportunity to briefly highlight two areas that OHCHR has been working on with IPF and the NHRIs community, and our plans for the coming year in relation to human rights and environment and human rights and humanitarian action. This year, we continue to witness the devastating effects of climate change in the region, with a higher frequency and intensity of natural disasters, having an enormous impact on the rights of vulnerable and marginalized communities. The IPCC assessment report has again highlighted the magnitude and urgency of addressing the climate crisis and environmental degradation, and we must ensure that human rights are at the center of these actions. The region has also been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting socioeconomic crisis. As we become increasingly aware of the interconnected nature of risks in our world, we know that those risks cannot be dealt with in isolation, and that NHRIs have a critical role to play in bringing human rights perspectives to mitigating and preventing risks, and in addressing their impact through humanitarian preparedness and response. This was one of the strong takeaways from the Asia-Pacific NHRIs regional dialogue to discuss the role of NHRIs in addressing displacement in the context of adverse effects of climate change, co-organized by OHCHR and IPF in 2020. Moving ahead, we will continue to expand our work with NHRIs to ensure that the human rights are protected from the impact of climate change and environmental degradation. We will also continue to contribute important initiatives such as the IPF RWI blended course on human rights, environment, climate change and gender, and the UNEP IPF and NHRI's institutional environmental rights online course. The distinct challenges faced by environmental human rights defenders in the region, in particular indigenous people and marginalized communities, will continue to be a key area of focus with us. In November, we will convene jointly with UNEP, the diplomacy training program, and several civil society actors from the region, a forum for the Asia Pacific for environmental human rights defenders. Thank you.
We look forward to continuing our work with APF on human rights and humanitarian action. Through the community of practice which we established in 2019, we have been able to follow how NHRIs have increasingly taken on a role in humanitarian emergencies. This was particularly evident in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, where NHRIs have worked on critical human rights concerns in relation to discrimination or the plight of vulnerable groups such as migrants or people deprived of their liberty, and on wider issues relating to fundamental freedoms and the right to information. For the next phase of this work, OHCHR and APF have developed an online training for NHRI staff across the Asia-Pacific region, which will be available on APF's learning platform. This will make training support on human rights and humanitarian action more accessible to a wider range of NHRI staff in the region. The course aims to introduce the subject to participants and to establish a basic level of knowledge on key human rights issues in humanitarian emergencies. We're looking forward to launching a pilot version of the training this October, which will be open to NHRIs who've been part of the community of practice and NHRIs in the Pacific region. Participants will be able to interact with course facilitators through APF's learning platform. And for the pilot version, live webinars will supplement the online course content. An announcement on registration for the pilot version will be circulated shortly after this AGM. The course will be made available as a self-paced version to all NHRI staff in the APF network early in 2022. We are counting on the continued support and engagement from the leadership level of NHRIs in this work. Thank you for your time. We'd be happy to respond to any questions or comments you may have either now or bilaterally following the AGM.